Is that my cue?
I think so. Maybe once we got it.
Mr. Brian?
So,
all right, take it away, Mr. John. All right. Hello, happy Tuesday. Happy new sector meeting. My name is John Lash. I have been a member here at Sector for some length of time. And I'm here today to talk about the Benkadi Project and to ask for your help. So brace yourself for that ask, it's coming. All right, well, first of all, the Benkadi Project was started by, or co-founded by a woman named Helen Bond some 20 years ago when she traveled to Africa to study West African drumming. She absolutely fell in love with the community and also discovered that the community has significant needs, and she decided that she wanted to help. And she formed the Benkadi Project, which has been a very grassroots project on the ground with long-term stable contacts in the community, and has done a tremendous amount of good. One of the main things they focus on is providing clean water for the people in Guinea in West Africa. And that is really where I got involved. 10 years ago, I made the first scale model of a mold for a biosand water filter that got shipped to Africa to use as an example for other molds to build. And I've been involved ever since. They also do well construction. That works really well in more densely populated areas, but one of the issues is the water needs to be transported from the well to the homes, often literally on the backs of the people that live there. So in the less populated areas, they are heavily dependent on biosand water filters in the homes. And the Benkadi Project has been producing these biosand water filters locally in Guinea for distribution there. And they provide the filter media, they provide the diffuser basket, the lid, and the education that's needed. And that total package of support is really kind of rare in the international philanthropic organizations. So I just can't emphasize enough that the Benkadi Project is kind of special, and it's very special to me. These biosand water filters that they produce are really an elegant and very simple solution to the problem of clean water. There's no moving parts. There's no need for power. It's all gravity driven. It's really effective at decontaminating water to make it safe to drink. And one of these units can provide clean water for drinking and bathing for up to 10 people. In Guinea, they typically still bathe in the rivers, so they only use the water for drinking, meaning one of these units can actually serve about 20 people. It's can make a really significant impact in a household. The expected lifespan of one of these things is projected at 10 years, and that's really limited by the components like the diffuser basket seen there up at the top. Can I get a pointer on the screen? I don't know, does that show up? Yeah, sort of. This diffuser basket up here just allows the water flow to spread out so you're not disrupting your sand media. Oops, wrong button. Your sand media down here. And what's not pictured in this image is starting at the bottom and embedded in the concrete, represented by this blue body here. Oh, I am so sorry. Wrong way. There is a tube embedded in the concrete. So the water that flows through this filter vertically will then come up the wall of the vessel and out the side in kind of that nose piece there. It's incredibly simple. They're very reliable. It's a well-proven technology. Unfortunately, they are having some issues. Their two main issues are they do not have enough molds in Guinea to produce the quantity of filters that they would like to produce to serve the community. Their other main issue is the lids that they need to have on top of these filters when they're in use to prevent intrusion of vermin or other contaminants are actually very expensive to produce in Guinea. Currently, they're doing it in the country, and this lid here in the picture on the left, you can see it's just a simple sheet metal part. They're paying about $62 a unit for those lids alone, which is eating up a huge amount of their budget. So that's one of the things I'm about to ask you about. There is a Sector 67 connection here. Although the concrete shells for the molds are actually made in Guinea, the molds themselves are built here at Sector. This is a picture of one of them. And of the 8 billion plus people on this planet, there is exactly one person building those molds. That's me. And frankly, it's more than I can handle at this stage in my life. And I'm here to ask for some volunteers to help with steel fabrication to put these things together. Ultimately, I'd like to find somebody who's willing to step into a leadership role and either take it over themselves or lead a team to help build these things. The skills you need are really not that great. Welding, the welders they have here at Sector are really nice machines. They're super easy to use. Welding is not as high skill as some people think. Grinding, anybody can grind. Drilling, some simple layout. One of the skills you will need is you need to talk to Chris, get him to help you out running the CNC plasma to cut out all those nice steel panels. It really streamlines the process. Thanks, Chris. And I am absolutely willing to teach the skills to anybody who's willing to learn, particularly anyone who's willing to step into a leadership role to help take some of the burden of this project, and mainly to help do some real good in the world. The other problem, the covers, I was just talking to Helen on the phone this morning. It's the first I heard that she was having difficulties with these covers. She is really looking for a new solution to how to provide covers for these units. She feels like the best thing to do is probably make them in the US and ship them to Guinea. She has a reliable method for shipping. She sends a container over once or twice a year, so that's likely not a problem. But the requirements for this solution is it's got to be low cost, obviously. They need to have a fairly close fit to the biosand water filters, but those are a known and established dimension, so I don't think that's going to be hard to hit. Could be made out of metal or plastic. The handle is optional. An interesting requirement that Helen brought up was she really wants something that's single purpose. In a resource poor environment like Guinea, a lot of resources wind up getting reallocated. And if you have your cooking pot sitting on top of your biosand water filter, when it's dinner time, your biosand water filter is not protected. Yes, question.
Everything's being cast, everything's being cast on site.
Yes, it is.
So I guess just curious, why wouldn't the grid be also cast?
That is a good question, and that might be a viable solution to this. It is something they're going to have to take off and put on probably at least a couple times a day. So figuring a 10-year lifespan, are you going to be able to make a piece of concrete that isn't going to crack and fail during that time? I don't know. I am not an expert in concrete by any means. I'm hoping somebody here is, but that's just cast. They do put some gravel in there and some sand, and it's not just Portland, but I have always wondered if it would benefit from, some polymer fiber reinforcement or fiberglass reinforcement, but they're not having any problems right now. So it's not broken. I guess they're not going to fix it. Anyway, any other questions before I ramble on here? I'd really be looking for somebody who's interested in contributing ideas. Ideally, somebody who's willing to take on this lid project. They're looking for probably about 1,000 units per year. And whether that's units that are actually made here at Sector, or whether, we design a solution and it gets sent out to like a vacuum forming facility where they can crank out 1,000 units quickly. All options are on the table, but looking for some creative solutions here to try to move forward and really free up some budget for the Benkadi project. So if that's a problem you can help solve, or if the fabrication of the molds is something that you are willing to help work with, please talk to me. I'll be around after the meeting, and I'll also be available by email. So thank you very much for listening to me. The work that anyone is willing to put into this will have a very direct impact on the lives of people. Absolutely. And if you can't contribute work, please consider a financial donation. The Benkadi Project is a 501c3 organization, and they will be glad to help ease your tax burden going into the next year. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. I guess I can't.
You can't run away.
I can't run away yet. All right.
Say, Sean. I'm gonna say, wow, thank you for the work.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm at a point in my life where sustaining this is just not practical for me, so it's time for me to pass it on to the next generation. That's what I hope to start here.
So, 1,000 lids indicate that they're making about 1,000 a year for the mold.
Last year, I think they made around 500 molds. And I know she is hoping to be able to scale up, but it really depends largely on how much grant money she gets this year. She's working on grant applications right now. So I think 1,000 would meet any requirements that they have. If less than 1,000 can be produced, I think that would be helpful too.
What's the biggest cost to produce these over there? Materials or labor?
There's a lot of things, but yes, materials is one of the huge ones. Logistics and transportation are a big thing as well. One of the biggest expenses of the Benkadi project is logistics and transportation. They wind up buying trucks from the UN when they're done with them, but African roads are hard on vehicles. The UN tends to sell a vehicle after they put about 50,000 miles on it. So you can pick up these really nice Toyota pickup trucks cheap, but they don't last long. And getting car parts, getting any sort of parts for any repairs is costly and time consuming. Fuel is another big issue. They recently had a fuel depot explosion, caused some 40 deaths, 400 injuries, and a massive fuel shortage in the country. It got to the point where you couldn't even reliably buy fuel on the black market. And I'm told that when the black market dries up, that means the country is really in trouble. And just political stability. They had a coup in 2021 that just kind of puts everything in flux, and reliability of anything is questionable at best, and that drives up price for everything.
So are they using the trucks to drive the molds around and making them in a community, or are they casting them in one location and then mowing the concrete?
They're casting in a single location and distributing from there.
They're distributing on the concrete thing.
Yeah.
Is it filled locally, or is that also locally?
I believe the filter material is transported outside of the mold. They run that, transport it dry, and they pour in the gravel and the sand once they install it in the home. And then once it's not being moved anymore, then it's a lot easier to deal with it full.
So if money or labor wasn't an option, how many would be needed?
That's a good question. Currently, they have helped about 90,000 people. There's about 14.2 million people in Guinea. Not everybody is in need, though, right now. With climate change, political change, those needs shift rapidly. So, coming up with a target like that, what is the optimal? That's a moving target, but it's safe to say it's in the millions of people. So the need is significant. Yes.
Here's you're welding them effectively like a sample, C channel plate.
Yeah.
Is there any reason to make that a welding connection or next to that to get water?
No, I don't.
It's happening, right?
Yeah. I was going to try to pull up an image, but I think it didn't make the final edit. We do flat pack them. The sides are all done separately, partially for flat packing. The mold core needs to be fully welded. You can't flat pack that. So we wind up shipping them in actually 3 separate crates. One crate for the small accessories, one for the sides, and one for the mold core.
Perimeter core side.
And it's important to have that bolted connection on the perimeter for disassembling the mold to remove the product too. Their failure rates, oh, sorry, failed to silence my phone. Their failure rates for pulling them out of the molds were fairly high when they were having the molds built in Guinea. When we started building molds here at Sector, we were able to get that failure rate down significantly. And the bolted sides were part of that solution. As Chris mentioned, also just the high grade grinding to make easy extraction helps a lot too. But a cast concrete product, you can only make one a day out of a mold, so you want to minimize failures as much as you can.
When you say failures, when they're extracting the core, extracting?
Either taking the sides off or extracting the core. I'm not exactly sure what the problems are with the molds that were built in Guinea. I've never seen them myself, and I've never been to Guinea. But I gather that they wind up using rubber mallets a lot, assuming they can find rubber mallets, which are apparently in short supply. But there's a lot of impact involved in getting these out of a mold that hasn't been really well ground and you can't take apart. And concrete does not like impact.
All right. Thank you, John. We'll catch you after the meeting.
Yes, I will be hanging around after the meeting and I will do my best to answer any and all questions. Thank you again.
Little change in direction here. Then Brian, you want to go after him?
Yep.
Nice to spike this much. Oh, I did drop your camera earlier. Make sure it's fine. Yep. Cool.
Okay. Hey, folks.
How can I hide this? Oh, whatever.
Okay. All right. So my name is Jacob. We'll be talking about some web scraping. This is something I have kind of a lot of experience with. I've done it in different capacities, but actually my previous job was a lot of the duties were around web scraping. So kind of the area of computer science that I'm most familiar with. So what I'm gonna do today is try to do like a tiny little live demo to kind of show how I go about sort of reverse engineering websites and doing web scraping. And the service that I'm going to work with is affiliated with musical theater. So I play the violin, and one of my favorite things to do is play in pit orchestras in musicals. So like community theater groups in various places, and whenever I can, I'll get involved in the orchestra with those playing shows. I moved here about a year or two ago, and I haven't yet gotten super into the scene here, so I'm always looking for new community theater groups to try to get into the pit orchestras for. So with that, that brings us to the website. One of the groups that licenses shows is called MTI. This is their website. You go to the bottom, you can see that they have a feature here where you can see what shows are happening near you. And not just near you, you can generally do like a geographical search of what shows are happening. So once it loads, you can see by default it's looking for the show Annie here, and it's showing all of the productions globally. So there's a lot in the United States and some over there in Europe. You got a little map of it, and there's also a table here which shows various information. So the reason I'm interested in this website is I don't like doing things manually. So what I want to do is build some software that will say, well, that will watch this and say, hey, there's a new show for you to look into in your area. Because over time, new shows will show up here when an organization gets the rights to them. So this is it's a kind of a broad project that I have envisioned. It also involves trying to figure out what the orchestrations for given shows are to see if, they actually have a violin part, because if they don't, I'm not interested in them. But for today, what I'm just going to do is see if see if I can make a function that will, given a particular show and given a particular area, we'll pick Wisconsin probably, see if we can just get the organization names for all of the productions that are open. And I'm going to take a brief pause. I don't press my batteries. Yep. It looks like MTI is cooperating so far, so this will probably work. I think this battery is as old as the laptop, and that's like 2010, so that's the situation with that. Okay. So basically, to get a sense of what's going on here, let's change the show here. Just pick another. Let's say, yeah, just pick another show here, and pick an administrative area. All right, so I selected one of those two. Click show results, and it's loading a new page here. As you can tell, it completely reloaded the page. And going up here to the URL, we can see that it's added some stuff. It was initially just map refresh here. It's frozen. Oh, okay. It's like the focus. Okay, stole my focus. Anyway, so you can see that there's a filter for country here at the end. We don't care about that. Country equals all. Next one here is administrative area, and it's given us 36. So presumably that corresponds to Oregon. So that kind of gives an idea how we set the state. And then there are a couple of date fields, and those are just blank. I'm getting rid of these because the hypothesis is we can just ignore those, at least for now. Okay, so, and then we've got field production show target ID. That's going to be the show. So all the night strut is the one I chose. So each show that it supports is going to have a different ID. Cool, and that's all basically all there is in the URL. It adds these query parameters to sort of refine your search. So start out sort of writing our function. I'm going to copy that URL. Boy, this I think Zoom is taking up an entire section of my screen here. You know, Chris, you know how I can get rid of like the bar at the top or hide it?
We can definitely give
that's
you
intercepting.
that.
Doesn't really seem like there's a way to do it.
Yeah, I think you can grab.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that looks better.
There you go.
Okay,
Don't
thank you.
click over on the right.
Yeah. All right, so that didn't solve it. Okay, we got some glitches here. I'll just make do with this. Okay, that's fine. All right, so I made a space for this. Let's see. Yes, the show's demo. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do this in Python. That's the language I have the most experience with. Found it very easy to do stuff like this in Python, so I would recommend it if you're doing something like this. First thing, I copied that URL. So actually, first we'll make a function. This is going to be the org names. And for this, we're going to need the show ID. It's just an integer. And we're going to need they call the administrative area, so like the state. And they also use an integer for that. Those are numeric. And that's going to return a list of strings. It's going to be those values in that column of organization. Cool. So with that, going to put in that URL I copied. Now this is limited to the parameters that we're interested in here. The show target ID. I'm going to get rid of that and fill in. Allows to plug any value in there. So that's going to be show ID variable. And that administrative area, that's going to be area. Now, if I make that a special F string, that'll just substitute the values that I get into this function into the string. So we should have a URL that matches what we're looking for specifically. Now, the next thing we want to do is we got the URL, so we want to make a request, make an HTTP request, pretending we're a browser, requesting the page, and then we're going to be able to get the page contents and process that in the program. So in Python, what you can do is there's URL lib, which basically does exactly what we want. So if we do a URL open with this URL, that's going to give us a response, and that'll allow us to read the contents. So with that, I see now I can't switch windows either, which is even more. Oh, I was switching to Zoom. Okay, false alarm. All right, so there are no shows. Boy, it's kind of a mess. All right, there are no shows with the filters I have applied, so we're just going to go back to sort of the defaults, and then we're going to take a look at that table where I'm trying to get the information from. We're going to get an HTML document when we request this, and then the idea is we want to parse that, find this table, and then go through the rows, pulling out those values. So the first thing you do is get a sense of what the structure of the page is, and I can do inspect element here in Firefox, and it'll show the HTML source for this page, and allow me to figure out what parts on the page correspond to what elements in the HTML. Yeah, okay, so you can kind of see as I hover over these things, it shows me where on the page they are. And basically what we're looking at here is we've got a table. There's a table element there. That's pretty small, but trust me. And then there's a header, which gives that's the blue text, title, address, org name. We don't care about that. T-body within the table element is going to have the contents of the table. And the way this is structured then is there are all these TR elements, and those are each rows. So we're going to want to find the table element, find the table body element within it, and then iterate through the rows. So going back to the code here, the first thing we want to do is we're going to need to parse the HTML, because it's going to just give it to us as a bunch of text. And we want to be able to use the structure to find what we want. So I'm going to use a third-party library called Beautiful Soup. And that allows us to make soup out of a file. And this response object is going to act like a file, so we can just pass it directly in. And it needs a little bit of boilerplate. Okay, so now the soup is basically a parsed representation of the web page that we can kind of query to get what we want. And specifically, the way that's going to look is we're going to use select and tell it an expression that gives us what we're looking for. So notice that in the table element here, if you can read it, it says table, and it's got class equals, and then there are a number of CSS classes here. And these are going to be useful to help us identify the element. One of the classes is views table. And turns out this class of views table is only applied to this particular table. So if we look for a table with a class of views table, this is CSS syntax, but basically just means look for a table element with a class of views table. If we look for all the elements in the document that match that, it should just return 1. That's going to be our table. So this line here is then going to assert that there is one and assign that to a variable. So then we'll have a variable representing that table element. So now I'm actually ready to make the return statement here, what our function is going to produce. And I'm going to produce a list using a list comprehension, which is like, there's like a loop and a list combined into one. So yeah, remember I said we were going to iterate over all the rows. So starting with the loop that's going to build our list, we're going to do for row in table dot t body. That's going to say table element, then the t body element within it. And then on that element, we want to find all of the tr elements. Those are the table rows. And now for each row, what we want in our list is, well, let's go back and see. Each table row has a number of TD elements. So those are the cells then within the table. You can see them highlight as I go back and forth. We want, in this case, the third one. We don't care about the other ones for now. So that means we want to do row that find all TD and take the third one, which in programming is 2. And then if we expand this, basically it just has our organization name, but there's some useless structure underneath here. There are a bunch of div elements in there. Luckily, we can just ignore that and have beautiful soup just get all the text that's within that element. So that'll strip off those extra elements we don't care about. And then I'm going to strip it in case there was any white space that snuck in there. And I think that should then work. Be interesting to see if it does, because I haven't tested it yet. But now what I can do, I put this in a file. I can sort of do this interactively. I think I called it org names. Okay, so I've imported that function I wrote from the module that is basically that file I just created. And now, if I ask it for, let's say, as a practical example, say we want to do shows of Annie in Wisconsin. So now I'm just doing this to get the values that we need to plug into our function. And the function should be able to give us the same results that we see in the website. Show target ID. The name of the number of the show up in the URL I can see is 509. So I plug that in. And then Wisconsin. Wisconsin is administrative area 48. So now what happens? It worked. So it made that request for the web page, parsed the HTML, found the table, went through the rows, pulled out that text, and we can see we have the values from the table. So this is kind of like a demonstration of a small part of what I would be putting into my eventual program, should it ever be finished. And hopefully someday allow me to play more shows. So it's kind of a lot, but I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Anybody have any? Yes. Yes.
You know about notebooks.
I don't.
Look that up. You're gonna like that a lot.
Okay.
It's really good for this kind of like iterative refinement thing. It's a way to make Python a little more interactive and it's heavily by scientists.
Okay.
So it's very easy to like go fix this thing, run it again, fix this thing, run it again, etc.
Sure. Okay.
Spider is kind of like the next step after. Or is that next step?
So what is Spider? So Spider sort of adds on to that concept.
Like
Okay. I also haven't used MATLAB.
Okay.
Kind of have my niche. But yeah, okay, those are good to know.
Consider a different instrument.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you play keyboard, you're set. But my keyboard skills are not great. So
If you, I'm Matt, and I've actually taught Python college level, so if you ever have any questions, advice, hit me up.
cool. Thank you, Matt.
So, you know, you had mentioned when it's in a framework that's blocking something, like, do you have a preferred runtime environment where you would run this persistent data and things like that?
Well, yeah, so I have grand ideas for what this would eventually evolve into, but I think in practice, I've got a VPS, so I run just like a little toy website for myself. And I've already written up like a little static page that I'm using to keep track of the shows that I found. So it has like a table of, you know, what the group is, what the dates are that the show runs, and what the production, you know, what the show is. And I keep track of shows that, you know, have a violin part that I could play in. So I'm kind of envisioning the first step of this is I make something that I can probably put on like a cron job on that server, run occasionally, and it'll just like update that static page and sort of insert rows when it discovers new pages. And then I can sort of use my little website as like the user interface to that. So that's probably what's going to look like once I've got sort of a minimum viable product.
Did a similar for counting nodes on a site, and I found that like a Google, like you had to run the G script or whatever, write a G script, but it was a surprisingly convenient platform for automation, even font style automation.
Oh, okay.
Like it was like a really surprisingly cheap and fun.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good point.
You further explain, I've never used the Beetle soup, what this, I guess, soup, variable actually was building.
Yeah. Well, maybe. So yeah, basically it's going to look roughly like a tree, and it's going to have all the elements in the page. So like, you know, at the very top there's an HTML element. I don't know if it has other information about the page other than just like the tree of elements, but primarily it's going to just have that entire structure, and then you can sort of drill down into it.
Be clear for anyone who hasn't ever seen this before, you generally would iterate on a hell of a lot more between loading the page and finding an element that you want on the page, and that you load the whole thing you saw, and then you go through that and figure out, like, are you actually getting content? And from that, then look at the element. Because if you weren't very good at what you're doing, you would have written that and wrote it, ran it, and it would just give you nothing. Because it would
Or crashed. Yeah.
So just so you know, it's not, you wouldn't normally just, oh, that works, there we go. Usually you're iterating a whole bunch of times.
Right.
Right. Software is free.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
for anyone who's inspired to go try this, just know that there's a few more rounds before you get the results you want.
I make it look fun, don't I? Yeah, and so you know, like I mentioned, I've been working on this project, so I kind of know the ins and outs of this website already, and then I sort of rehearsed the demo a few times too. So, yeah.
The other thing, have you gotten blocked out from these sites playing with it?
I don't think I've ever been blocked on any of the half dozen or so scraping projects that I've done. The testing that I'm doing now, I generally try to keep like a 3-second delay between requests I make. Stuff like this, I feel like their IT team is probably not even up to like that sort of thing, so I'm probably safe. But yeah, that's another good point. Is good to be careful because you can make people mad, and you aren't supposed to be doing stuff like this. Generally, they don't want you to be doing it. But
if you iterate through pages and do pages really fast, you can completely obliterate a site. Really, as long as you have a good connection, they have a bad connection.
Yeah.
So, like, of course,
Going through all the shows.
yeah, it also depends on how you're.
Yeah.
Yeah, the recursively is what fits.
Have you ever used this on a site and like what you saw in the URL wasn't being pulled into the script at all? Did not being composed?
If I saw the URL was not being, I'm not, can you clarify?
Well, so I guess what I'm getting at is some websites sort of do a lot of fun JavaScript funneling WebSocket crap.
Oh.
So it isn't like there isn't like HTML there. It's like
Uh-huh.
dynamically generated type of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you see it, but it's not there unless you trigger it type of thing.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so that is like the other half. I think I was initially hoping that I could maybe show like that, you know, that side too. I have to do that too because like you said, some sites just work that way. You request the page and you get this little shell that tells your computer how to get the rest of it. So when you're dealing with something like that, generally it's they call it AJAX. It's JavaScript code that's making a request for usually JSON data, and that's going to return it's going to return the stuff that then gets like, you know, parsed and inserted into the page. And so it's kind of a different tool, kind of different skill set a little bit to deal with that. You're looking in like generally in the network monitor in the browser console can show you what requests the browser is making, and you can reverse engineer. Usually there's like more of an API behind the website that you can then query directly and process JSON, assuming that's what you get. So yeah, it's definitely still possible. It can be nastier when you're dealing with that. So, you know, that's since this is nice.
Where like the table isn't really a table, it's a bunch of divs. That doesn't make sense if they pull in CSS to actually straighten it out.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. This one's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
do like comment on Christmas.
Let's see. Can I? Well.
Oh yeah, you can use it on the other. Your Zoom.
Where?
Needs up there.
Oh, over on the right. Yeah. Okay. So if this one, I go to view options, exit full screen, I guess. Or no, I probably didn't need to. Okay. More chat. We got two. Okay. Bravo. You had on the edge of my seat, hoping you would use Beautiful Soup for this, and you did not disappoint. Yeah, it's a good library. Even with these sorts of things, you can automate a real browser with Selenium. Yes. Boy, I don't like Selenium. We used that at the job that I was talking about. It was super flaky. And I also find it kind of heavyweight. The idea behind Selenium is you're running a browser and you're driving the browser through like what the browser's like accessibility interface, I think. Sure. Yeah. Yes. So that
Yeah,
could be a
it's-
useful thing. You got someone on the call?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say it's like super slow and like you said, kind of buggy, but it's like probably the most compatible, you know.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good way to get up and running quickly because you never really know how long it's going to take to reverse engineer this stuff. This one, you know, like I said, is pretty easy, but it can get nasty. So, yep, that's a good thing to be aware of. Sure thing. Shut it off?
No, I didn't click OK though. Something said it was not connected. Think you're gonna kill your screen share?
Oh, boy. Memorize that.
Well, it's the easy one. It's, like I said, my normal account doesn't work, and you might have to do, yeah,
Over your screen share again.
shrink. Da-da-da-da-da. Yes, please. Where is this? More?
No, green.
Oh,
The
share
giant green button.
screen.
Yeah, hit it. Share good. There you go. Oh, don't worry, it's coming. Very sketchy looking light.
Let's see. So I am. Let's see. So I'm already peeing into a different system. So just a quick rundown of what I'm talking, what I'm gonna be going over here is, I've sort of done different stuff relative to the meetings here, and oh boy, this is really nested. Hopefully this works.
Looks like we're 2 layers deep now.
Yeah. Let's,
At least it's one of the software features figured out.
let's try not to optimize. Maybe that, and let's not share sound.
So there's a network engineer at Zoom streaming right now trying to understand what's going on.
Oh boy.
If you're on a punt, Ryan, I can present what you're figuring out.
Get out of that.
I thought Jacob was gonna be the one that fell on it. I don't know. I'm curious. Well, I was saying live typing code, starting with a completely blank document.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, so I'm RDP'd into a machine that has the Zoom meeting going. So let me try to get that.
You want a different video? I can pin your here. I can pin your more stuff section.
Maybe if I just hit the window itself and not do the screen. All right. So, all right. So I think this kind of works. So, like I said, I've kind of been doing an evolution of how this live meeting stuff has been working at Sector. Initially, it was just kind of doing the audio, and then later I had this Wi-Fi camera, which looks like this might be off again. Darn it. That might be a problem there. So anyhow, basically, I've started using this program called OBS Studio, which is what the Twitch kids use to live stream their games or whatever. And how this works is it's an open source software that allows you to sort of connect up different cameras, and then you can do transitions, overlay text, and do even chroma key stuff. Ooh, my camera did come back on there. So, so how this works is, if you've been watching, there's one of these user accounts that's just called RDP, and that has been switching through cameras on a regular basis. So if you don't know, there's a security camera over there, it's a different camera up over there, and I have this Wi-Fi camera. And I will not show you all of them because the sector security ones, they have, this is how you get to it. So you can actually open up, if you actually have the credentials, the username and password, you could talk to it through this IP address and this port MPEG-4 with this protocol, and you can even open these things up in VLC if you wanted to, and you can say open network stream. Yep.
Well, when you see online people's like monitoring baby monitors and stuff, that's
Right.
why. Because if your password is admin or whatever, and you can just search for these streams, these RTSP streams, you can find these on networks. So people will run a network search essentially and look for these RTSP streams, and then throw generic username and password that access video streams.
Yep. And this Wi-Fi camera uses something called SRT. Not really sure what it is. But again, if you figure out the IP address and the port and you figure out kind of the URL, you can kind of grab the stream and start doing things with it. So you can see I kind of have 3 cameras here. I have like the Ethernet camera, what's called the HD camera, which is kind of pointing at the screen here, and this Wi-Fi camera. And in this, you can download tools. So there's like something called an automatic scene switcher. So this will go through and is it here? Where is this? This one, source switcher. Yeah, so this one will just loop through. And there's all sorts of different add-ins that do this type of stuff. So it has like how long and in between and what to do next. So what you can do is you sort of set up your cameras and you can group them together, and then you can do things like put fun little texts over stuff. So you can see like one of them says security camera and the Wi-Fi camera. And what you can do is you can set up these scenes, and then when you can sort of prep them and get them ready to go, you can sort of hit it and then go to transition, right? So you can kind of have stuff already set up. So you can imagine if I'm a Twitter guy, one is my Switch or Steam or whatever the hell it is, the other one's this camera. And what you see when you see the talking head over their game is they're using this chroma key type of thing. So as long as you have, there we go. So we have a camera, and so I got the Wi-Fi camera. Let's just transition to that. So we'll see if that works. Okay, there we go. So I have the camera. So this is the URL to that Wi-Fi camera that's right there. And then I can, I click on it and I do filters. This is the chroma key, and you can set if it's blue, green, or even like a special color. So hopefully, yeah, I guess it's coming up.
Yeah.
So I can, there we go. So, and what the chroma key does is it picks up the blue and kind of does some sort of alpha filter type of thing. So it kind of cuts it out of the mainstream. So we can kind of, if we do this, I don't know if that you can see anything. Maybe not. So you go through and you get this program and you play with a lot of stuff. So
That technical.
yep. So here I found a URL with just like radar stuff. It's not really doing anything interesting. So the idea is this is the scene. And if you look at it here, I don't know if I can make this bigger.
Circulating.
We do
Do
pin.
a single? No.
I'll just do that one.
Yep, and then click and drag the corner and make it a bit bigger. There you go.
There we go. There we go. So you can see it's got the text there, and you can see what's behind it. So these are all done within each layer. So I even have like this color background that if I moved it up, you can see it kind of smashes everything over because this flat color. But if it's a camera, you can see it does that. But then if I have the URL, it switches over that. So if you have this, then you can kind of walk in front of this. How's it going? Just went off. Come on, camera.
I like that one.
Let's hit the transition button here. Come on, camera. Yeah, this Wi-Fi camera, it works fine. It has like timeout issues. Well, yeah.
Sure, go for it.
You gotta hit the camera.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I threw it on the floor earlier. Well, I may have been back before. What's up, Adam? In the background be a video.
Yes, right. So you can do whatever you want. So if I was, I don't know, clever enough, I don't know if I can make this like a YouTube or something. I don't know if there's a good video.
First step.
Yep, Toby Keith. Let's. So if I take this,
Gotta be sure.
And it knows that my
Yes, no, I already got it on the
So let's see if we can add another URL here, like another browser. We'll see if it blows up on us. YouTube is on top of everything. So it's kind of in there. I mean, right, you can see it back there. All right, so it's behind that. Not really. Let me close this. I mean, yeah, no, like the thing that like the computer this is running off of is kind of relatively old. Or it's not the most modern thing. There isn't like some grand transition.
Alright, this might get the key out. Who's got questions for Mr. Grimes?
Yep. So that's roughly how it works. So again, if you get this stuff going, it works pretty well. Yeah. So any questions, I guess, besides the other questions you've already been asked? I try to keep on adding something new every time. So initially it was just, I just had that Wi-Fi camera, but then, like I said, I'd have timeout problems. So it's like, well, I know there's cameras here. If I could just figure out how to drill into it.
Are you doing like a Twitch stream while you're doing this?
No.
That would be interesting.
No. So it's just sort of doing it as the another meeting comes along, try to add more stuff. So a few months, I would say, probably I've been doing it.
Is it integrated with a video game where you can put your head on your character?
Oh, not that I know of. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of crazy automations and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know where the forum is or something, right? I mean, there's all sorts of different stuff that people build into this. I don't have it up right here, but yeah, you kind of have to go through the forums and click through it. I mean, it seems like it's updated pretty often. So people all over the world use it for their Twitch streams, I guess. So, but you can do other stuff. Yep, you can play weather.
So you said that right now you have like a Zoom, that this is driving like a Zoom participant that cycles through the cameras, is that right?
Yeah, so what happens is on Zoom, it has this virtual camera, right? So you have this is called the studio mode that it's in. So like I said, you kind of move through it and then you can transition to it. And you have this virtual camera. So if you go into the settings of your Zoom, there is basically a driver, right? So there's the OBS virtual camera. So as long as you have that set up and you have your virtual camera going right here, it goes. And the same thing with like recording. You can take it and it'll start recording an MPEG somewhere. I don't know where. So if I hit stop, maybe it tells me. Here it is. See, this is an MKV file. So
So like what are you gonna do next? Do you have any ideas for how this is going to
Propane pots for the fire effects in the background. Was that nice?
well, we could, I guess. More stable cameras, I guess. There you go. Yeah, I mean, as long as you can get a feed off of it. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like these are all the different things you can put in. Like, I don't know what application audio capture is. Like, they even have like audio mixer stuff. So you can see like, here's the audio mixers I guess coming from the Wi-Fi camera, that would be a bit more involved. I mean, the way I have it now is I can relatively set it up, plug stuff in, and kind of walk away. That mostly works.
What would be the like paid version? Is there a software that is not like a multi?
There's probably lots of like podcasts, production, cloud stuff. I think there's like an Adobe something that I've heard of. Yeah, where people, yeah, right. And that's a type of thing where it's just like I'm a guy in New York interviewing someone in California. They can come in and then you record the separate audio tracks and then re-put it back together again for whatever your YouTube or your podcast type of thing. So
Brandon, what is the significance of this blue screen? Like, how is that not, I mean, was the fact you have a blanket there, the camera picking that up and saying this is where to apply the view?
right. So
Something that's consistent color palette.
Yes.
That's what the lighting's so important.
yes,
But is it, I mean, how is that different than just like kind of face?
you could pick like black, right? But then it would look very odd. I mean, let's
Also pick a fixed section.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean,
But
it's
it wouldn't be able to surround him. So like if his demo, if you walked up in front of the blanket, it's like the weather guy. You've got weather behind you and you're the person in front of you.
that's kind of crap.
Some of them just use fixed pixels on a fixed camera. And it cuts those off, but even those have problems on later and stuff.
Yeah, so like, for example, Sean, in the top right, you could put a screen. Top left, you put a screen, you could be the person sitting at a desk in front of it, but those would always be on the front end of no matter what. Versus this, you can be in front of it and then it's chroma keyed, so it's keying them, it's becoming the screen behind you.
Right. So like that camera there's like magenta lights right there. So if I go back to green, the light's there. If I say magenta, it disappears and now it's all black, right? So like all of this is gone. It's hard to see, right? But it's black. So again, you could probably pick out different colors. I mean, there's like some purple here. We could probably try to. Correct. So like if I do this purple, okay. Oh, look at that. Now the whole thing is. So yeah, so then you have to like play with some of these things. See, there we go. So this purple here, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so it's kind of like it bleeds over, it picks out, because like all colors are multiple colors underneath it, so you can kind of extract out. So anyhow, but yeah,
Some people in like tights and that's all it makes.
You have
Right.
your floating teapot.
Right.
Now on our presentation, we have to do live in front of the company.
I think.
What's it called? That recording?
Yeah. And like I said, there's lots of just filters here. There's just like you can really get into this thing and just like I don't even know. This must be audio filters as well, right? Noise gates. Like you can really drill into a lot of stuff. And you know, like all production stuff, it's kind of got to play with it a lot to figure out how it works, type of thing. So.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Yep.
Does it have fake applause?
Maybe.
Audio mixer.
I have to
I can
get
figure
out
it
of here.
Yeah, you gotta
Yes.
get up and roll this out.
Goodbye. Ooh. All right, there you go.
Sir. I'm gonna pass this thing around. This thing is kind of a fun thing we're playing with on the fiber laser. So I'm not gonna talk about otherwise, but it's etched in. It's a fake fossil. So if anybody has a need or a desire to make fake fossils, it's kind of a fun thing we're playing with. Yep.
How long did that compression make and
How long did it take to do?
how long did it take to
Like 25 minutes ish.
probably make all this?
And that was, I just pulled a random like setting that's definitely not optimized. It's also got a bunch of melted rock melted around it, and that's because it was not quite set up to clean afterwards. So let's see here. We still have audio. Yep, looks like it. Just making sure. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our 10-year, which I realized today. I was going to make this presentation either way, but it turns out we've actually been selling junk on eBay for 10 years, which is kind of interesting. So for those of you who don't know, we have Sector67 eBay store. eBay started in 1995 as an online marketplace. This quote seemed oddly appropriate for us. And in 2015, eBay added eBay for charity. So it's not just a thing that the shop can do. It's actually anyone can eBay a thing and then contribute in charity. So if Jim sells something for $100, he can donate 5% to whatever charity he wants to. And so you can designate a charity, whatever you want to pick. Otherwise, as a charity, we can sell to 100% of our behalf. So essentially to our benefit. Little slight here at Amazon. Amazon used to have Amazon Smile they got rid of, so they got rid of their charity thing. So as far as an eBay store goes, if you're a seller on eBay, you can buy a store for like a couple dollars a month, and they'll give you the ability to list items for a certain fixed price or a relatively marginal price. So we have stuff that we sell. It's primarily things that are donated. A lot of times it's small value items in large quantities, or it's hopefully high value items in small quantities or large quantities would be good. We run the gamut of things. Down here we have a ThinkGeek USB flux capacitor for your, for all your flux capacitor needs. Old digital cameras are surprisingly cool with young people now. So dig out all your old school digital cameras that have like, a 2 megabyte file or SD card. Super awesome, apparently. All sorts of goofy stuff, things that you'd have no idea people would buy. There's people who buy steampunk jewelry stuff. So somebody gave us a whole bunch of jewelers parts from taking apart watches. So I have literally a tray full of random watch parts. And so people buy those to turn it into steampunk gear. So normally you pay a listing fee. So on eBay, it's like 30 or so cents to list an item. And then if you you pay for a store, then you get X number of listings at cheaper prices. And then so effectively, when you look on eBay, if a store has 1,000 items listed, they're paying monthly 25 cents or whatever the insertion fee is. The longest you can run an auction is for a month. And that's for a fixed value. Like if you do like a buy it now, it's up for 30 days, basically. So every 30 days, every item on eBay gets eBay another X number of pennies or dollars or whatever it is. This is where eBay really makes money, is these final value fees. The cool thing is, and this is the value to us, is that they waive final value fees for items sold for charity. So we typically don't have to pay the insertion fee, and we also don't have to pay the final value fee. And this is where eBay is getting the like 13% on a sale. There are some goofy categories, like apparently if you're selling a guitar, it's only 6%. Why? I have no idea. If you're selling a book and magazine, it's 15%. So it's this really strange, which clearly they're gaming from either available data that other sellers or marketplaces are doing or matching. Down at the very bottom here, if you've got heavy equipment, an attachment for like a Bobcat, it's 2.5%. Again, why? I have no idea what they're doing, but clearly they've got an algorithm to determine some of this stuff. The only thing we do have to pay still is a final value fee on the money transfer. So you cannot get out of the way of paying credit card transfer fees. That's an inevitability of selling online. So either way, we're out like 3%. The general strategy for us is I try to always have about 400 things listed. That seems to give us a pretty decent conversion to keep sales up. We sell some stuff remarkably cheap. So we've got literally, you got to mute your audio. We've got parallel ports for $3 and then like $1 for shipping. We make like $1 off each parallel port, but I have about 2,000 of them to sell. So it's $2,000 worth of old school PCI parallel ports. Down to light bulbs, old ink cartridges, all sorts of goofy tech stuff. And then on the other end of things, there's a building that's getting torn down for salvage. So I posted kind of a winger of a $12,000 to buy a whole bunch of glulam timber just to see, is there interest in this kind of stuff? What would that look like? We got a few people asking questions about it. Nobody really committed otherwise. So it's just kind of an interesting thing to post up and see whether there'd be interest or not. Some 3D printers, some other things. So you can see not a lot on the high end. Most of our items are like $1,000 or less. And the majority of our sales are industrial surplus. So like 15% of our sales are in the business and industrial category. So these categories are where you're paying in those value fees. So you can mislist things intentionally on eBay and try to push them into a category that has lower values. And then eBay, of course, will catch you and push you back into the category you belong in. I'm sure most of that stuff's automated. The other thing to notice is that the vast majority of our purchases are one-time buyers. So we sold 569 items, and of those, 20 buyers were repeat buyers. And this is stats for about a year. So most of the time, it's people buying onesie things, which is what you'd expect. We don't have consistent inventory, and so as a result, the people are just buying random stuff, whatever we're cheapest on. I figure people are going to ask, so I might as well throw in a slide. How does shipping work? So your lowest cost shipping is something you can literally put in an envelope. So 63 cents. Downside is the envelope is untracked. So as far as eBay is concerned, you never ship the item. And if the seller or the buyer makes any complaint at all, you lose all your money on that transaction. So if you ship out a thing with a stamp, eBay assumes you didn't actually mail it. If the person says they didn't get it, you're out of luck. So about the only thing we mail with the stamp is a boat gasket that we cut here on the laser cutter. So we cut out cork gaskets and mail them out. And those just they don't really have any value. They're worth like 50 cents and we sell them for $8. And so it has a huge margin on our end. And in 3 years, I don't think I've ever had to ship anything out more than once, except for maybe a handful of times where the USPS is destroying it. And then you go up from there. So $4 is essentially your minimum cost to mail something 4 ounces or less. There's some goofy media mail, other tricks, but effectively it's $4. Then you hit flat rate priority mail, the little envelope mailers. The fun thing there is the USPS doesn't care if it's 3D. As long as you can jam it in the mailer, it still counts. So there's some YouTubers who have shipped like tungsten plates just to see what comes out the other end. So they'll literally put a tungsten plate in, which is like 80 pounds in a envelope mailer, and no object should weigh that much. And then of course on the other end, it's like strapped with caution heavy stickers and all sorts of stuff, and it's clearly destroyed things on the way through the mail. So yeah. And then USPS just shifted a lot of their pricing. So USPS Ground is now about the cheapest way to ship things. It's like $7, $8 to ship the out that way. UPS for everything that's big. So if it's bigger than like a basketball, UPS is probably going to be cheapest. If you want to get these prices, if these prices are way cheaper than you're expecting to pay when you go to the post office, down at the bottom is Pirate Ship. Pirate Ship is an agnostic shipping provider. They don't care what you're shipping or how you're shipping it. It's just a service that gets you the same discounts you get through Amazon or through eBay, who obviously can broker large volume. And then LTL Freight is for pallets. So occasionally, I'm sure you guys have seen, I'll have a truck pulling up out here, a semi truck. I'll have the forklift out and a trailer or a pallet going on. Generally, that's starting at like $350 and going up from there. Might be $700 to get something across the country. If it's real big and it doesn't fit on a lift gate, they get real grumpy. Or if you can't move it from one end. So we have pretty good luck with freight. Freight does a lot better actually than some of the smaller shippers for destroying things. But when freight destroys something, it's really destroyed. There's like very little in between. It's like fell off the truck and got run over by a forklift or dropped in the drink, or it's totally mint condition and fine. There's not a lot in between. So why eBay? Well, for us, it's because it's free, but realistically, I grabbed some stats here for just eyeballs. So we have 400 and some items listed. So this is a month's worth of data. And so we've got about 500,000 impressions on all those pages of those 400 pages. You're getting about 10,000 actual page views. So impressions are when somebody's scrolling through the listings and just sees your item. Page views are where somebody clicked on your thing and actually looked at your item. So we got 10,000 or so page views of people actually looking at our items themselves. And then from those 10,000 views, our conversion rate or our sales funnel is down to 200 and some items sold. So you're talking 500,000 impressions down to 10,000 clicks, down to 200 items sold. So our conversion rate is pretty small. So that's that 2.2% at the very end. Click-through rate's 1.6%. So that gives you an idea. This is called a sales funnel, right? Is where your customers are at, where they're coming from, and then all the way down to actually making the sale, which then is where the labor comes back in, right? Like posting it is one half of the work, the other half of the work shipping it out and getting somebody to get your thing. So then, eyeballs eventually become sales. So these are what your conversion page looks like. So this is within the last 90 days. These are 2 orders that are actually sitting in that USPS mailbox on the corner there that have to go out. So you'll get a thing from eBay that says buy your shipping label and you stuff it in the mail and hope for the best. In terms of volume, I actually went through this the only time I've ever done this. This is part of the reason for posting. So these are our sales of the left side. So transactions this past year were almost 600 things that we sold. So about 2 a day. And on average, at the right side there, the red, or I should say the left side again, the red line is the dollar per transaction. So we're actually averaging out about $100 per thing sold. So we're selling enough of those really expensive items to counterweight all the really, really cheap shit that we're selling and coming out with an average that's worthwhile. So it's definitely worthwhile on average of $100 a sale, but on that $1 profit parallel port card, not worth selling if that's the only reason that you're running to the post office. So these are sales over the years. You'll see this errant 2018 year. Does anybody know what happened in 2018? We moved, right? Everything had to go from the old shop to the new shop. It's really, really hard to run a job site and run an eBay store and build a building that doesn't have heat. It makes it really challenging. So we pretty much axed the eBay store that year because there was just no way to manage that. Sales over 10 years are actually pretty insane. I had not added these up again. So over the last 10 years, we've made $328,000 selling junk on eBay. I know nobody would believe it, but every year I get rid of, on average, hundreds and hundreds of things from this building and nobody notices. So things disappear to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars that nobody also notices. So
Like gross or net?
this is gross. Thank you, Brian. So yeah, this is gross, and I'll show you in a minute here how that nets out in terms of actual value. So again, you can see the huge drop in value there, and the program, which I didn't realize started in 2015. Again, looked that up previously. We had kind of sold some stuff in 2014 before they had this charitable marketplace. So we were just selling at the same rates everybody else was. And then that incentivized me to post a lot of junk to get rid of more things once it was like, oh, we can do this at just the money transaction fee. So here you go, Brian. This is annual report for last year. So we had 61,000 in total sales. Costs then are taxes. So taxes and fees, about $3,700, and then about $7,000 in shipping. So net out, we get about $50,000 for the year. That's selling 800 things. Sale price is about 75 bucks for that year. And then we sell everything fixed value. Auctions are annoying. You can auction stuff, but you really got to have something that's desirable, or your thing's going to sell for $1. So you're better off just setting things at a fixed value. You get tons of people who don't want to pay anything, who are like, "Oh, I see you want $100 for this. Will you take 10?" And it works. I get plenty of people who do that all the time. But I give them the sob story of, well, since it's sold for charity, we really just can't negotiate on this. It's just tough. We do what we can. So yeah, about 12%. The cost end up being about 12% of gross. And of that 12% of gross that's lost, about 80% of that is the shipping cost, and about 22% of that is the fees, which are taxes, and also the taxes are auto gathered and submitted by eBay. That's one of the things you guys probably saw. It's like 5 years ago or so. All the states realized we're losing tons of money in state sales tax revenue, and so they forced all the online marketplaces to actually gather sales tax automatically. So I don't do anything with the sales tax on this end. It's all grabbed by eBay and then submitted to the right states. You look at Wisconsin having like plenty of revenue now, and I have a feeling that scales across all states in terms of your online sales now are getting gathered, at least in large marketplaces. There's a reason for the giant box pile. Hopefully now everybody understands why the hell do I have a huge pile of boxes all the time. This is our highest grossing space per square foot in the shop, the pile of boxes. And we recycle all of our packing material. Occasionally stuff gets diverted out to the recycling because we just don't have the ability to process it fast enough. But we all the stuff that ends up getting shipped out is recycled material. The other kind of dumb thing on eBay is they've got some pretty like boneheaded things. So down here it says add a billboard and you'll have 31% more conversion rate on your sales. Because clearly people are looking at our sales page and seeing that we don't have a billboard at the top and thinking, I'm not buying from this guy. He's got no billboard graphic. It's much more likely that anybody who's going to bother filling out their sales page is going to be a huge company who, of course, is going to have more sales. So kind of a funny one. Then the other one broadly, this is a nonprofit 990. If you aren't aware, all nonprofits have to make their 990, which is a financial form, public. So you can go look up our 990. You can look at anybody's 990. There's an IRS page that you can look them up for free. Others, there's websites online you can find financial statements. Also available all over the place, but sometimes you got to make a login for it. So in our case, just to give you an idea then, so our eBay is about 50 grand out of the 190,000 in total revenue for like last year, for instance. There's some aberrations on the overall flow from the WC grant that we had. There's some money that came back from WC, so our financials last couple of years is a little oddball. Any questions from anybody? I should acknowledge Isthmus Engineering was running the Scotch tape packaging machine. So Isthmus Engineering is a big assembly line processing company in town, and they make assembly lines that make like rat traps and all sorts of products. And so one of the product lines that they were doing was Scotch tape. So Isthmus had to make the assembly line that makes rolls of Scotch tape. Now, of course, the rolls of Scotch tape they made can't be sold because they were part of the R&D process. Like, who knows if they're wrapped tight enough or if the glue's going to fail or who knows what. So they ran off. Every time they turn on the machine, it's a production machine. So the tape goes in, the rollers roll up, and it makes 100,000 rolls of tape in an hour or whatever it is. So they had pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets of tape. And so they were like, "Oh, you guys need any tape?" Like, "Yeah, we need some tape." This was years back. And they were like, "Well, how many pallets do you want?" It's like, maybe 1 pallet would be maybe enough. So I still have tape from them, lots of tape. They were making the Sharpie machine, and I've never been more disappointed. I kept trying to like, "Hey, can I get some Sharpies? You guys got some Sharpies?" And they weren't filling them with ink because apparently the freaking Sharpie ink goes everywhere. So whenever the machine screws up, right, like the packing tape machine just makes big balls of packing tape. The Sharpie machine, though, shoots ink everywhere. So it turns out you don't fill the Sharpies with ink when you're running the test machine, which is pretty awesome. When Marshall Erdman closed, that's the little label printer on my desk. I told the guy at the auction that I wanted to buy the table. You never ever tell him you want to buy like the fancy tech thing on it because they didn't have a price on it. He's like, $5 for the table and everything on it. Sounds good. And then yeah, we recycle all the packing material. So yeah, questions about crazy eBay chaos? Yes, Mr. Matt. Well, I don't have it. I don't think it's on this 990. So I make 36,000 a year, so it's in there somewhere. I think I might have to bump it up to like maybe what we make on eBay annually might be a reasonable salary. You know, I try not to think about it. I don't know. I can list things in about 3 minutes. I'm really fast, which is scary bad. It's actually a combo of you use your computer and you use your phone. You take all the pictures on your phone, have the eBay app up, type stuff on the computer, find the items on the computer, sell a similar item, make sure the keywords all or the like criteria all match up, and then throw images on your phone, and then you can be on to the next listing while your phone's uploading and saving. What's that? No. Sorry. It's just if you were paying for the listings, you have to re-up money every month. But yeah, they're continuous. They do drop off after about 90 days. So if you were selling a thing and you deleted the listing or expired or whatever, eBay of course nukes your pictures and all the text because I'm sure they got to save space for no reason. So it's kind of dumb. Yeah.
I mean, again, if you can list that quickly, how are you trying to sale price? You ever been starts with the $1 table and then you go to the $2 table. Or the $5 table is sold.
I generally just pick a price and that's going to be it. I've definitely undersell things very infrequently. And one of the paranoia games with eBay is if you post something and it sells instantly, you're like, "Oh my God, did I just give that away? Like what happened?" It turns out it doesn't really matter. It's because somebody has a watch list set up. And so you'll trigger a keyword on their watch list and they'll like, "Oh my God, I'm going to buy that." And they're just going to go buy it because they're already primed. Like they're ready to go. They're just waiting for this object to get listed. And then other times stuff sits for literally years. I had some big motors upstairs that were spindle motors off a CNC router. They were listed for like $600 and I've had them up for 5 years probably. And I was getting really close to throwing them in the scrap metal bin, but I got to pick them up and move them to do that. So I was like, yeah, this doesn't hurt anything. They're at least posted. And somebody bought one as a electric motor repair shop, and then they bought another one and mailed it to a different shop, and they were happy with it. So I think I've got one left, but yeah, it's just it's a weird. Some of that stuff's really weird on the industrial surplus side of. Then you have other times where you have a servo motor, and people are selling them. People have them posted for $1,000, and you put one up for $700. And yeah, when you need that particular motor to fix a machine, they'll pay whatever if you're the only one available. So you'll see there's Radwell Supply. You probably never heard of it. They're an industrial supply house. They've bought stuff from us because if I have a power supply listed and they own all the other power supplies, they will buy my power supply and then inflate the price. which is probably anti-competitive behavior. Who knows? But the deal is what they'll do is if I post a thing for $80 and they have one that starts at 100 and then goes up to 500 for a brand new one, they'll buy the one from us and then hold it and then inflate the price of all of them. And so they're essentially controlling the market because they'll keep buying those. If I had a bunch of them, you could actually troll them probably into buying and spending a lot of money on it. But I think they've got algorithms that are looking at sales and other volume data and trying to figure out what to do. Because if they're holding the only known inventory of new optics and you've got an industrial assembly line that requires those things, they can pretty much put whatever price they want on it. Somebody's got to buy it.
What would you say the role of the sort of reputation pharma stuff would play? Or what are some of the ones by?
Yeah, eBay has feedback, and
You have decades of like good pharma.
oh, you think I have decades of good karma? I mean, come on. Yeah, eBay's feedback is interesting. You can provide negative feedback, positive feedback. We have like 99.5%. I had one guy who didn't read the description and then put negative feedback that it didn't include things that weren't pictured. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. It's not in the pictures and it says it's not in the description. So you can be grumpy, but I can't fix that. And that's where usually you just give them their money back. And if you refund the transaction, then it removes the feedback. So that's eBay's method of trying to like, oh, if you just undo the transaction, then we'll remove that negative, mark, which is fair, but in our case, we don't care. So yeah, there's certainly sellers that have poor feedback and are still selling. You eventually get banned from the market if you get low customer satisfaction, but it seems like you can get like 80 or so %. Jim, what kind of canned question you got? Oh, I would never sell cars on eBay Auto. I sucker other people into listing cars though, and I hear they have a hell of a time. So eBay's got an app, right? You have a phone app, and it turns out on the eBay Auto is a different company than eBay is, and they have their own app. Just who the hell knows why. But anyway, on the eBay Auto app, you can one swipe buy.
What?
And so for a while, eBay Charity had where you could list like 3 cars a year. And so I listed a car, and then somebody one quick swipe buy, and then was like, "Oh, I don't actually want that. I don't know why I bought that. Like, I didn't actually need that. You mean I bought it?" So then you refund them, and then eBay's like, "Oh, well, there's one strike. You sold your car." And then I did that again, and somebody swiped it and bought it again. And like, you can't disable this feature. It just one quick swipe, oh, they bought it. So then I asked Jim, like, "Hey, Jim, you got an eBay account? Would you mind selling a car for me?" It's just listed as 100% charity donation. So what? I mean, the guy, they ended up buying the thing and like couldn't get a refund on it.
So it took out of my, after they refunded them, it didn't refund my charity donation.
Which is fine with me.
And it happened several times. So before I caught it, my friend was like, "Hey, this was like $300 a pop." I think.
It was, yeah, we were up to like $900.
Like $900 they just took out of my account. Because you can't sell, I don't think you can sell on eBay without giving them the ability to take back from you. Apparently with no limit. Well, what wrong was that their charity wasn't coordinated. So it took them.
That was a lot of phone calls. Yeah.
Get somebody to say, and I think eventually I had to go to the credit union to make a fraud to get their attention. Because I'm like, first of all, I'm like, how can I stop? And if you couldn't find something to tell you, it's just like, yeah, that's eBay Auto, that's different. Or they go, yeah, the charity stuff's weird. Yeah, it was a nightmare for about 3 days.
Yeah.
Did I think you also have Facebook Marketplace list?
I do post on Facebook Marketplace and on Craigslist. Although Craigslist is very much dying off very quickly. So sadly, Facebook is where it's at. That's just the only reason I use Facebook is to post crap on Facebook. So if you want to buy anything, let me know right here. Get you out the door today.
Well, okay. So,
Need a new car? What kind of car you need?
so I was wondering, like, how you decide where to post. Does the Facebook Marketplace stuff compare to eBay?
Yeah, I'll often post stuff on eBay at a much higher price. And then Facebook Marketplace will be cheaper. And then Craigslist actually is cheaper because the Craigslist buyers just buy things. And the Facebook people want to spam the, "Do you still have this" button? And then like, "Yes, I still have it." "Oh, okay. I don't actually want to buy it." I literally had somebody, "Oh, I didn't have any interest in this. I just wondered if you still had it." What are you doing? So I generally add about 10% to the Facebook prices, which people don't, I've had one person over 5 years see that I had it on Craigslist for cheaper. And they contacted me on Facebook, and I literally just said, it's the Facebook tax. You already bugged me on Facebook. And they paid the Facebook price. So yeah, but no, it's literally, it's very real. Facebook drives you crazy. And then they de-rank your listings if you aren't responsive, because like they keep track of your responsiveness. It's bad, but yeah. So yeah, big things I'll sell on Facebook are low value things, or just stuff that we just want to get out of here. I'll often list across a different couple places. But shipping turns into a real pain in the ass. I've had nothing destroyed, knock on wood, in like 3 years, which is a matter of overpacking. So I got tons of packing material, so throw it in 2 boxes and it weighs an extra pound, which is another $1 or so. But you can generally protect your things from getting destroyed. But if you're shitty at packing, Jaden hopefully sees this presentation. Jaden shipped a ukulele as a flat rate mail, priority mail envelope, and didn't enclose it in anything. So he like put the base of the thing in a box and then just had the frets and the neck sticking out, like shipped it to the guy. It made it actually, and it was fine. But he told me afterwards, because the guy wanted to return it. I was like, you shipped a ukulele, it's like a $29 ukulele, and the shipping was $7. I'm like, there's no way you shipped a guitar to this guy for $7. It's like, oh yeah, it was the cheapest one. I just picked the top one. It's like, it's a flat rate mailer envelope, got to fit in the envelope. I don't know. So yeah, they get really grumpy if they catch that, but that's up to USPS. Mr. Mark?
How many people have apprenticed under your business besides Jay?
So Sadiq and David were my eBay listers for a while. David was really fast, Sadiq not so fast. Sadiq wanted to like actually understand what he was doing, and David was just like, I'm putting this in as fast as I can. And then I was doing pricing. So those guys were taking pictures and creating the listings, and then I was pricing it ultimately. That's the tricky part, is figuring out what price to be reasonable about. If you make stuff too cheap, you get bad customers, people who are like expecting stuff to be really inexpensive and then want it perfect. If you make it too expensive, then you're setting the bar a little high. So there's like a happy balance in there. Same thing with Facebook. If you put something for like free on Facebook, you get driven insane by people, just crazy people. If you put it for $5, you'll never hear from anybody until somebody actually wants it. And then in the description, just write, this is actually free if you read the description. Everybody pays $5. Nobody actually reads the description. So yeah. There is this is actually by month, so you can't read it, but the left side's January through December. Actually December's off the charts. But yeah, there's a lull in summer. And I will say we sell a fair bit to like colleges and institutions. So over COVID, there was a huge slowdown. All these factories spool up because they were churning out product, trying to do stuff. But like institutional orders went through the floor. Nobody was doing R&D projects. Nobody was doing anything. So I think this is a little respective of that, where you're seeing sort of this academic bump at the beginning, summer slows down, and then it picks back up again. Because the people buying like weird used industrial surplus, students building weird projects for school, because they don't have a budget to buy new stuff, and they don't care if it's on eBay and they like might have to polish the edges or something. Versus institutions are like, no, or companies are you're gonna buy a new product from somebody. So I think that's a little bit reflective here, the month-to-month variation, especially in the drop in the summer. But that's hugely dependent on what product you're selling. Again, we're selling weird stuff, so get weird buyers. Anyway, you can bug me later, but yeah, if you want to, I mean, Mark, I can't believe you're so gracious to offer to help list items. That's super kind of you. Last thing I was just going to put up here, Sector 67 is the third leg of the stool for Atwood Fest. Atwood Fest is the neighborhood festival, end of July every year. The neighborhood center who was assisting in the festival pulled out, and so they wanted somebody who could help coordinate some of the power needs and some other things for that festival. And so we're going to help out with that. If people are interested in helping out, it's a music festival. I can get you free beer. I don't know, we could build our own, backstage studio stage or something if you guys want to have some fun. But we'll be helping planning the layout and the design and other things. It's all run by volunteers. It nets out about $90,000 a year, which gets split 3 ways across the partners. And then, so theoretically we'll make money on this. I doubt it, but we'll find out. And then not as much as eBay. And then the neighborhood association uses all the revenue to give away grants to the neighborhood. So like we received a grant for $2,500 to support building the tool library. So things like that come out of this event. So this event has value beyond just us. But Mr. Aaron?
We get our own security t-shirts and tasers?
I can't help you with the tasers, but I can get you a t-shirt. Adam's probably gonna make the t-shirt though, so, you know. All right, does anybody else have anything they wanted to share? I think that was it for presentations for tonight. So I'm gonna cut off the Zoom folks. Thanks everybody for coming.